For more than 3 decades, Jim Boeheim has been on the Syracuse sidelines. Since taking over in 1976, Boeheim has become one of the most successful coaches in college basketball history. A combined 13 Big East regular season and tournament titles, the 2003 National Championship, and a Hall of Fame induction. Tonight, another milestone. The legendary coach will be on the sidelines again for the 1,000th game of his coaching career. Tonight, Jim Boeheim becomes the 22nd coach to reach the 1,000 game mark, and just the 7th to reach that number at the same school. Tonight, Boeheim and his team have a date with his most famous protege, Rick Pitino and the Louisville Cardinals. Pitino, an assistant on Boeheim's first staff at Syracuse, has Louisville on a 2-game win streak. Syracuse had a 4-game win streak until a loss last weekend against St. John's. Both teams come into this game 4-2 in Big East play, and both winners in 4 of their last 5 games. Pittsburgh atop the conference, Marquette and Georgetown both at 5-2. Dave Pasch alongside Len Elmore. And Coach, we talked with Coach Boeheim before the game and asked him about whether he's even thinking about this milestone. He just went, eh. Typical response. That's Jim Boeheim, understated. But the fact is, this is a big game for both of these teams. 4-2 in conference, one of 4 teams that have 2 losses. They're trying to keep pace with Pittsburgh at the top and also be among those 4 teams that get a bye in the Big East tournament come New York in March. But the bottom line is, based on their schedules upcoming, these teams have to prove that they're NCAA tournament-tested teams. And Len, you talked a lot about this being a sophomore-dominated league, but a senior is the leading scorer in the conference, Demetrius Nichols. Well, Demetrius Nichols leads the Big East in scoring, as you mentioned, 12 consecutive games in double figures, 20 or more in 11 of the last 16. And Juan Palacios, after a series of nagging injuries, is beginning to blossom again. 21 points in 23 minutes at DePaul, and he's averaged 18 points over the last 2 games. All right, Len, let's take a look at the rest of our starting lineups. First for the Syracuse Orange, 15-5, 4-2 in the conference. Up front, Terrence Roberts, 3 straight double-doubles. Darrell Watkins and the aforementioned Nichols into the backcourt. Andy Routens and Josh Wright. Eric Devendorf will not start, but will play starters minutes, probably the most minutes of anybody on the team. Front court for Louisville, Padgett, Palacios, and Terrence Williams, Louisville's leading scorer. And in the backcourt, freshman Edgar Sosa and senior Brandon Jenkins. And we are ready to go here in Freedom Hall, sold-out crowd. Winner of this game, as you see our official Shaw Hessen Chows, likely establishes itself, at least for the time being, as an upper echelon team in the Big East. But the way this league has gone this year, that could change in a heartbeat. Louisville's won 2 in a row, and we'll start with the basketball and Syracuse opening in zone. Yep, that 2-3 zone that becomes a Syracuse trademark. Be interesting to see if the freshman guard, Edgar Sosa, able to handle, create plays, and make things happen. That's why Brandon Jenkins is in the starting lineup. Jerry Smith, the freshman, had been in for a while, but Jenkins more experience against Syracuse, and Syracuse obviously facing the Louisville man-to-man. Here's Nichols, had it stripped, and Terrence Williams out of there with it for Louisville. Williams in conference games averaging 16 points per game. And nice defensive play there. Nichols on the other end with the game's first basket. Dave's perfect example. Again, the freshman Edgar Sosa, not experienced against his Syracuse 2-3, and how they'll extend it. Just makes a lazy pass to the wing, and he paid for it. Boeheim said before the game that Syracuse will mix it up, play some zone, play some man, and Syracuse has been playing quite a lot of man defense this year on the alternate possession, and will go to Syracuse. Yeah, I mean, the fact is that Syracuse has the athletes out there who can play man, who have the foot quickness and the length to be able to make it effective. And also, you need to give yourself another option. Sometimes you want to focus your defense on stopping 1 or 2 players of the opponents, and that way in man, you can probably devise schemes that can do that. Here's Roberts. As we mentioned, 3 straight double-doubles. He's playing awfully well, and Boeheim said when Roberts and Darrell Watkins play well, we're definitely a better team. Well, Terrence Roberts, probably the best athlete on this team. He's got loads of potential. He runs, he jumps, he's got nice touches we saw on that bucket. It's just kind of an enigma that he hasn't really been able to be as consistent as you would like. 11 points per game in conference play, under 10 points per game overall for Roberts. Louisville working it around that zone. Shot clock at 11, and another steal for Syracuse. Here's Wright with the pull-up Jay, and it's 6-0 Cuse. And a quick timeout by Rick Pitino.
Well, that's definitely got to concern Rick. Knowing his team doesn't shoot as well as they do, the one thing he wanted to do is rebound and minimize turnovers.
6-0 Syracuse, and less than 2 minutes into the game, Rick Pitino has to call a timeout and goes to his bench, getting Jerry Smith on the floor, freshman from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Jerry Smith, a terrific three-point shooter. The kind of action you need, kind of inside-out action with Smith on the trigger end of it when you're working against his zone.
Sosa on the drive, and finally Louisville's on the board.
Edgar Sosa, a quick learner. That time he saw the gap and drove it.
Sosa, a freshman from Rice High School in New York City. That's in the wheelhouse for Syracuse recruiting, with Sosa elected to go to Louisville. Here's Palacios, able to hit Jerry Smith on the drive, and Smith can't get it to fall. Roberts clears. And a quick whistle. Palacios going to get called for the foul. That's the first foul in the game. Well, Rick Pitino got his start in coaching in Hawaii, then joined Jim Boeheim in Syracuse from 1976 to 1978. In fact, Pitino canceled his honeymoon. Left the day after he was married to recruit former Syracuse star Louis Orr. Pitino told us before the game that in honor of Jim Boeheim's 1,000th game, he went out and bought Coach Boeheim a tie. And he said he can't get Boeheim one without getting Bernie Fine one as well. Fine in his 31st year on the Syracuse bench. And a turnover by Syracuse. Sosa on the other end, and he's got 4 quick points for Louisville. And a foul on the play.
Well, again, when you talk about Louisville, we mentioned the fact they don't shoot it all that well, but in the end, it comes down to points off turnovers. 27% of their offense, of their 72 points a game, come off to turnover. And Sosa with a nice job straight to the bucket.
Foul was on Demetrius Nichols. Sosa off to a good start today. 4 out of 16 in his last 2 games coming in. So 6 straight points by Syracuse to start the game, and then 5 in a row by the Cardinals. Dievendorf into the game.
Again, you see the sticky pressure. Dievendorf, nice job of beating that pressure and trying to attack, be assertive, and he gets the job done here.
Yeah, block is the call on Padgett, his first and the second on Louisville.
Again, it's all about, let's man-to-man pressure, and Dievendorf backs up, gets Sosa to stop. And that, for young players to understand, you beat your man, the first thing you have to do is get them to stop, because once you blow by them, they'll ultimately, it's going to be about a second or so of reaction time, and that's when you get head and shoulders by and you get to where you want to go. All too often, guys try to beat them when the defenders are still moving. You got to get them to stop for a second, and Dievendorf backed up, and that's when Sosa stopped for a moment.
Good free throw shooter, Dievendorf, 81%. In fact, Syracuse is 4th in the Big East in free throw shooting.
Look at Padgett there on the high post. Very important player, very important role in beating the 2-3 zone.
Long rebound in the hands of Williams. Another quick fire. Yeah, not even close. You could see that as soon as he released it, and then Smith could not get to the loose ball.
Yeah, that's the guy, Terrence Williams, that Louisville would love to get on track. Terrific athlete, excellent rebounder, 8th in the conference, but shooting only 37% from the field and 25% from beyond the arc. Yet he's their leading scorer. Louisville playing their version of 2-3 zone.
White with the lob. Roberts with an incredible attempt. Watkins blows the layup. And Williams has it for Louisville.
Boy, Watkins has got to finish that. With his explosiveness, he could have flushed it.
Padgett with the kick out to Williams, and a travel on Terrence Williams. 8-5 Syracuse on top. Coming up during our broadcast, much more on Jim Boeheim. We'll look back at his remarkable career as he celebrates a free.
And your Lincoln Mercury dealers.
This telecast available on ESPN HD, presented by Olivia. Back in Freedom Hall, Syracuse leading Louisville early. 8-5 is your score. Rick Pitino in his 6th year at Louisville. And We mentioned that Pitino was on Jim Boeheim's first staff back in 1976. Pitino told us that Boeheim wanted him, as you see Pitino on the left there and Bernie Fine all the way to the right. Pitino said that Coach Boeheim wanted him because Pitino really understood man-to-man principles. And there's Bernie Fine to Jim Boeheim's right.
Talk about Bernie Fine. He's worked with the big men for Syracuse for such a long time. Bernie not quite the center. He's a wealth of knowledge, though, and that's why he's been around for such a long time.
Bernie first year next to Jim Boeheim, and was a manager when Boeheim played with Dave Bing. As Watkins gets inside of this time, we have a throwdown. Didn't have that earlier.
That's right. That's exactly what he needs to do around that rim. You had a chance to see his elevation.
How about this? 5 different Syracuse players have scored. Sosa is the only Cardinal on the board. And that stays the same as Jerry Smith misses. And it was last touched by Louisville.
Well, again, the balance to Syracuse, it's all about the ball movement and recognizing the open man. And that time, a nice job of locking. You see Watkins locking, used his right arm a little bit to push off, which many times you get called for. But Syracuse, a nice job of identifying the open guy and getting the ball to him quickly, and everybody's gotten in the mix.
Nichols from outside, short with a 3, and it will go to Louisville. Nichols, the leading scorer in the Big East Conference at close to 19 points per game, along with Notre Dame's Russell Carter. Nichols' numbers a little bit down in conference games at 16 per game.
Louisville still trying to attack the zone. They got 3 guards out there, obviously for ball handling, for the ability to slash, and certainly for the perimeter shot.
But they are 0 for 4 from 3, and here's a Devendorf foul. Andre McGee on the drive. Winter X Games 11 continues following our game here live on ESPN with the men's snowboard super pipe and the snowmobile snowcross final. Shaun White, who I know is Len's favorite X Games athlete, will be in action. He competes in the elimination round of snowboard super pipe. Won the bronze earlier today in the snowboard slopestyle. I understand that you are going to give your son Steven some advice that he should forego a college basketball career to become a snowboarder. Is that correct?
As soon as he understands the difference between a half pipe and a super pipe.
But you do, and that's what's impressive. David Padgett from outside cuts the Syracuse lead to 3.
Tight Louisville zone right here. Everybody set up above that 3-point line, trying to keep the ball from going inside. Syracuse still able to get some shots.
But that's 2 layups now missed by Watkins. Louisville with a chance to cut it to 1 or tie the game with a 3. Freshman Earl Clark into the game. And an offensive foul. No traveling is called on Earl Clark.
What I was going to say, Dave, Earl Clark has got to be aware that the zone collapse goes into Clark. Now on the other side is a wide open Jerry Smith. Clark was looking for his shot instead of looking to move the ball. This guy wide open on the opposite wing. You got to be able to look and throw opposite.
Second failed alley-oop attempt to Terrence Roberts. McGee on the other end. And how was goaltending not called? And still, instead, a foul is called on Syracuse, but looked like Watkins got it on the way down.
You can take a look right here on the ball movement when it goes to Clark. Right there, if you hold it, you look at all the guys here. Here's the open man. Clark should recognize that and be able to hit that guy. Instead, he turns and looks for a shot right away. Totally ignores a wide open Jerry Smith on the right. Got to be willing to catch, survey the D, and throw opposite if necessary.
Meanwhile, 2 fouls now on Demetrius Nichols, so he's going to go to the bench. Watkins and Wright will also sit down. Padgett with a great game on Big Monday here on ESPN against Connecticut. Padgett had 19 and a season-high 11 rebounds.
You got to admire David Padgett's perseverance. I mean, a guy with 2 literally rebuilt knees, still coming out here giving 100%.
And Pitino said before the game, this is really the first time that he's had his veterans completely healthy, and that's one of the reasons why Louisville has won 2 straight games. Here's Gorman, who's capable of hitting that shot but could not there, and a Syracuse foul. That's 5 team fouls. on Syracuse in the game. And they're going to get Paul Harris for his first personal. Harris, a freshman, into the game. Much ballyhooed freshman from Niagara Falls, New York, but has struggled offensively in Big East games, but definitely a viable defensive weapon.
Paul Harris is an example of why that 19-year-old rule from the NBA works, because he's a young man that probably would have tried to go into the NBA draft, and now he's playing a year here. Some of his weaknesses have been exposed, and he's got to work on them. Tremendously gifted, but he's got to work on some of his game, and he might stick around another year or even 3 years.
Devendorf for three. In conference games, he's right around 50% from three-point land, and that's the first three in the game for either team.
Yeah, Eric Devendorf, quiet so far, but he's a guy that can explode on you quickly. And you talk about bringing emotion to that team. You can tell where Syracuse might be, but a look on Devendorf's face.
Devendorf coming off a season-high 23 points against St. John's after the missed three by McGee. Syracuse touched it last, so it will stay Louisville basketball. 5 points in the game for Devendorf. Coming off the bench now. And he's fifth in the Big East in scoring in league games so far. Sosa back into the contest for Louisville. Williams spotting up. Another miss from three for Louisville. Great rebound by Padgett, and Syracuse commits its 16th foul.
And that's why I say the guy that's running the high post right below that free throw line, so valuable in the offense in attacking the 2-3, not only as a passer, but also as a rebounder. Once the shot goes up, clear path to that rim.
First personal on Matt Gorman.
Remember, against the zone, there's really not a person you block out, it's an area. So that guy in that position can get just about any rebound he wants if he fights.
Padgett with a kick out. Sosa already 5 points in the game. Padgett with the follow.
There's that man again. Just hang around the bucket.
5 points, 3 rebounds for David Padgett. Transfer from Kansas. 3 opportunities on that possession for Louisville before the Cardinals got it in the hole. Offensive foul on Paul Harris. That's 2 on him. Well, it's been a long trip, over 31 seasons on the sidelines for Syracuse. Stay tuned for a trip down. He said when he's done, whatever that is, and he looks back on his career, certainly he'll appreciate the fact that he's coached as many games as he has.
Well, obviously a testament to his greatness as a coach and consistency. Why consistency is so important in building programs.
Speaking of consistency, David Padgett has been that of late. Where he's really come on since Big East play began. 7-3 run by Louisville. Padgett has 7 points, averaging 10 per game in conference. Missed 3. And then the follow by Nichols and a Louisville foul. So Nichols back on the floor with 2 foul scores and a Louisville foul.
Well, again, Demetrius Nichols recognizes the shot coming up and gets to that weak side. Had a little help from Terrence Roberts, who occupied the defender. But when you know guys are going to pull up and shoot, particularly against zones, and you're on the opposite side, make a pass to that weak side glass. You're going to get more touches than not.
Roberts to the bench. Watkins back into the game. The foul was on Terrence Williams, his first. The third on Louisville. Check out Louisville inside the arc. 5 of 8. 0 for 7 from outside of it.
Yeah, but Rick Pitino told us he knows his team is not exactly accurate from beyond the arc, but he wants them to keep shooting. He wants to continue to build their confidence. As we saw last week, they started out horribly and all of a sudden lit the house on fire. And if you shoot enough of them, as long as there's a bit of balance in your offensive attack, you shoot enough of the threes from a saturation standpoint, you know, you're going to be successful. Remember, you know, if you shoot 40% from 3, that's the equivalent of 60% from 2.
Fouls on Andy Routens, 1-on-1 for Sosa. Well, Louisville in the second half is shooting 49% from the field. A lot of those made threes. Against Connecticut on Monday, they had 18 points in the first half. And they put up 50 on Connecticut in the second half. And you and I saw against DePaul last Saturday where they really struggled shooting the ball in the first half and came alive after intermission.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely about confidence. You have some guys in here who are shooting over 40% like Jerry Smith, and there are guys who have the ability to hit them in bunches if they can get the feeling, and you don't get the feeling unless you're shooting.
Only 2 Louisville players have scored. Paget and Sosa have combined for the Louisville 14 points. 5 Syracuse players on the board. And now a Louisville foul. That'll be the 4th team foul on the Cardinals, and the first person on Will Scott. Paget on the bench right now for Louisville with 7 points, 4 rebounds.
And I'm very impressed again with Eric Devendorf. That little stop and go action makes him quicker than he already is because he changes speeds on the defender.
Devendorf, a McDonald's All-American. Foul inside on Terrence Farley, his first. Well, ESPN2 has a great women's college basketball matchup tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Number 2 North Carolina taking on number 3 Maryland. Should be a great one. Carolina's undefeated. Maryland's 1 loss was against Duke. Duke and North Carolina will meet on February 8th. Possible those two will be unbeaten, depending obviously on what happens tomorrow. So Matt Gorman at the free throw line. 5 team fouls now in Louisville. Gorman shooting over 60% from 3, and he's right about at that mark from the free throw line as well. 1 out of 2 on that trip.
Yeah, Matt Gorman was a member of the 2003 national championship team, and you know the thing that impressed me, started out as a freshman, just continued to work. Now he's getting some time as a senior.
Will Scott getting some time as a Cornell transfer. He walked on at Louisville. His dad was the team doctor for the New York Knicks when Rick Pitino was the head coach there. Scott hits Louisville's first 3 of the game. Nichols comes right back and misses, pulled down by Terrence Williams. Tied at 17 midway through the opening half. Palacios yet to score in the game. 37 points in his last 2 games. Finally healthy after being banged up most of the year. Lost it there to Devendorf. Spin by Devendorf, and then a foul is called. He was grabbed. The block was good by Palacios, but the foul first on Will Scott, his second.
Well, again, Juan Palacios got stuck, couldn't hit the short corner of pressure release, and a nice job and a nice spin by Eric Devendorf, pretty much under control until he got fouled.
A rare miss for Devendorf at the line. Better than 80% from the foul line for Devendorf. Paget back into the game now for Louisville.
Eric Devendorf, terrific offensive player, pretty good defender. His biggest problem is turnovers. Last 5 games, he's averaged 4 turnovers a game. Had 7 against Marquette, although obviously Syracuse ultimately defeated Marquette. But he gets a little reckless out there with the ball at times. That's why I made emphasis on the fact that he was under control on that drive.
Devendorf, a sophomore from Bay City, Michigan. Will Scott with another 3, and Louisville has a 2-point lead. Back-to-back triples by Will Scott.
Terrific catch and shoot scorer is Will Scott. You know he's in this game. No one else could drop a 3. Rick Pitino playing with his combinations. I think he's found it.
First lead of the game for Louisville. Watkins gets the feed and a foul on Scott. That's 3 quick fouls on Will Scott. Time now for a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Here's Dave Rebson.
Hey, Dave. Tiger Woods looking for his 7th straight PGA Tour win. 2 back heading into the final round of the Buick Invitational. Rookies Andrew Buckle and Brent Snedeker will start tomorrow tied for the lead. And Carolina pounds Arizona in Tucson. A 28-point win. Lute Olson had never lost a home game by more than 12 in 24 years at Arizona. Details SportsCenter 11 Eastern, ESPN News, anytime.
All right, Dave, kind of an embarrassing loss for Arizona. They looked awful today against Carolina.
Well, they did. I mean, the bottom line is that they couldn't shoot the ball well, and they don't play defense as well as you would expect of a team like Arizona. And Carolina truly exploited them and really brought those weaknesses out, especially with their depth. Remember, Brandon Wright didn't even play.
Right.
Bring those 2 freshmen, Stevenson and Thompson, off the bench in the front line, and they give you quality minutes. Those guys could be starting for any other team in America.
Tough to win, period, at Arizona, but to win by 30. Palacios falling away on the baseline, and then Paul Harris rips it away from Terrence Williams.
But you had an opportunity again to see the importance of Paget right there. He turned, surveyed, and found people.
This time, Roberts comes down with it, and then he puts it in. Syracuse back up 2.
And that's what Syracuse can do against this Louisville team. This Louisville team not that athletic on the front line as opposed to Syracuse. And you throw it up above the rim, you got guys on Syracuse like Roberts and Watkins who can go get it.
Jerry Smith Too strong with a three. Paul Harris, who had 12 rebounds in just 21 minutes in a loss to St. John's on Sunday. Watkins misses the jam. Boy, Syracuse, normally proficient for the alley-oop, struggling tonight.
I said they could go get it, but then you got to do something with it once you catch it.
Syracuse having trouble finishing. Louisville unable to complete that high-low. 7 turnovers by Louisville, 5 by Syracuse. Here's Devendorf, who has 6 to lead Syracuse. Only 3 Louisville players have scored in the game. Again, Syracuse unable to finish underneath. Watkins with a couple of cracks at it. It will go to Louisville. And Terrence Roberts down on the floor, writhing in pain. Timeout on the floor. More of that when we come back.
Rebound, change shots. He just has such impact on the defensive end. The points have just added gravy.
Terrence Roberts on the bench for Syracuse after that hard fall, but he got up and he's okay. Another turnover by Louisville. That's 8 giveaways by the Cardinals.
And again, that's what Rick Pitino told us, that in order to increase their offensive efficiency and to compensate for the fact they don't shoot well enough, they can't afford to turn it over.
There's Devendorf with that side spin rotation for a 3. 9 points for Devendorf. And Syracuse back up 5. Here's Padgett with a turnaround. And Paul Harris snares it. And this Orange team looking to run.
The other thing that Rick wants his team to do is be able to compete on the boards. That time with Padgett shooting, nobody else down there really trying to go for rebounds.
Nichols with the miss, 5 points in the game for him. Leading scorer in the conference coming in, falling away, can't get the roll. And a foul inside on Louisville. Syracuse leading Louisville by 5 here in Freedom Hall, site of Jim Boeheim's 1,000th game as head coach at Syracuse. With Len Elmore, I'm Dave Pasch. Boeheim, the 22nd coach ever to 1,000 games. Only 6 others have done it at one school, and he's the only active coach to do it at the same school. A familiar stare out of Jim Boeheim there to Demetrius Nichols as Harris is on the bench, or on the free throw line rather. Unable to hit the front end of the 1-and-1. That was on David Padgett, his second for Louisville.
Well, this is a game, despite shooting 7 of 20 from the field and 2 of 10 from beyond the arc, Louisville finding a way to hang close.
The only guy with made threes until now, Terrence Williams hits that one, was Will Scott. Scott's on the bench with 3 personal fouls. And then Syracuse turns it over. McGee blew the layup. And then Devendorf is fouled. Wow, Andre McGee had a bunny. And then he commits his first personal foul. 9th on Louisville as a team.
Well, you hate to see that if you're a coach. Obviously, a guy makes a mistake, but you don't compound it by fouling him on the other end and putting him on the line. This is potentially a 4-point turnaround. A missed layup, and now you give an 80% free throw shooter a chance to knock 2 down.
Well, McGee missed most of the season. He came back last Saturday against DePaul. Been dealing with a quad injury. Devendorf with 10 points now in the game, including those 2 made threes.
And Andre McGee is so important to this team because he gives them an awful lot of energy. Good handle in the backcourt. Career 34% three-point shooter, although this year not nearly as accurate. And a lot of that obviously has to do with the injury. You know, if your legs aren't right, you're not going to be able to hit shots at your normal frequency.
And plus, if you've got a freshman point guard in Edgar Sosa trying to win every game for you at that position, tough to win in this league. 9-3 Syracuse run as we get inside of 6 minutes. Devendorf unable to hit. Rebounded by Clark. Good ball movement by Louisville, but Syracuse able to rotate defensively, and then Padgett. The follow no good, but a Syracuse foul. They're going to get Paul Harris for his 3rd.
I'll tell you what, though, I like, even though Louisville not able to hit but did draw the foul, I like the way they're moving the ball against the 2-3. They've got the guy in the short corner as a pressure release and an opportunity to hit him. Padgett is usually the conduit. He receives, he turns around and faces the defense calmly, looks for his shot when it's there. He'll pass it down low when it opens up. just a nice overall job. But, you know, again, Rick Pitino, having had some experience with Jim Boeheim as an assistant coach way back when, probably knows the ins and outs of the 2-3 zone, even though he was there to try to teach man.
Yeah, Pitino was telling us before the game that, you know, he canceled his honeymoon the day after he got the job on his wedding night so he could go recruit Louis Orr, and Orr was afraid of flying, and Pitino had to convince him to get on a plane, saying, if you want to play in the NBA at some point, you're going to have to get on an airplane. He eventually obviously got Louis there, and Orr was an assistant under Jim Boeheim as well, and then the head coach at Seton Hall until this season.
Well, Louis Orr and I were teammates with the New York Knicks, and Rick Pitino was an assistant coach there. And he obviously was merciful in not telling that story while we were playing, because the guys would have been all over Louis.
Not only was Pitino an assistant for you, but Jim Boeheim recruited you when he was an assistant. You ended up at Maryland.
It was under Roy Danforth. I think it was the Saltine Warrior that changed my mind. That was the mascot back then. I don't know.
As opposed to a turtle.
I knew you were going to say that.
Terrence Williams with the shot. And Louisville's back within one.
That was a good setup for you, man.
Served it up, my friend. Nichols into the lane on Farley. And the follow by Terrence Roberts.
I've said it over and over again. Terrence Roberts shows flashes of brilliance, you know, with his athleticism.
3 straight double-doubles for Roberts coming into the game, on pace for another one today. And Watkins, who averages close to 4 blocks a game, just punches it into the backcourt.
2 6 blocks in the last 2 games. He's just a goaltender back there when he's on.
Great save by Devendorf in front of the Syracuse bench. Watkins against Cincinnati had 10 rebounds, 8 blocks, but 0 points. Syracuse won that game by 1, blew a big lead in that game, and then lost to St. John's on Sunday, ending a 4-game winning streak.
I'll tell you what, it's the W that makes the no points go along with the rebounds and the blocks. It makes it sweet for a guy like Watkins, because he knows he's out there to play defense and to rebound.
Jim Boeheim says Terrence Roberts and Darrell Watkins, the 2 senior big men for Syracuse, are the key to this team, as Roberts, only a 46% free throw shooter, missed the first. Brandon Jenkins committed a foul, his first. Sosa into the game. Jenkins will stay in the lineup for the Cardinals as we hit the 4-minute mark here in the first half. Maybe a little bit higher scoring than many anticipated, but the way both these teams have been playing defense. Syracuse second in the league in field goal percentage defense. Louisville has played very well of late defensively. Nice tip by freshman Earl Clark to get the Cards back within 2.
What a valuable member of the Cardinals team. Earl Clark, usually the first big guy off the bench to come and spell David Patton, give him quality minutes.
Great defense by Louisville. Devendorf eventually ends up with it. And a nice dink to Roberts for the jam. What a feed by Devendorf. And you talked earlier about Syracuse's inability to finish, but that time Roberts got it down, and then a steal by Wright. With Devendorf behind him, nice play by Terrence Williams to knock it away, and then he's pulled down by Devendorf.
Actually, he wasn't pulled down. Devendorf was trying to save him from diving into the crowd. Crowd's booing, but they have no understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, Curtis Shaw stepped right in between the two to make sure there were no extracurriculars, and they patted each other on the back. Great pass by Devendorf. The last time down the floor, Roberts has dunked. Syracuse leads by 4.
Tournament, but also one team beating the other will help build that resume going towards March.
Speaking of making it to the Big East tournament, is Connecticut in real jeopardy of missing the Big East tournament? I know a lot of games left, but UConn 2-5 after losing today to Providence.
Well, it's going to be all about the growth of the young players for Connecticut. You know, you would have expected now, you probably don't want to call them freshmen anymore beginning February 1, but you expected more growth from them. A lot of those guys very talented, but just haven't seemed to grasp what Jim Calhoun is imparting.
Terrence Williams committed the foul. Basket obviously not good. It's a 2-shot foul. Here is the bottom half of the Big East standings, and again the surprise, UConn at 2-5.
Yeah, somebody's going to ask what's wrong with this picture, seeing the Huskies that low.
Villanova losing today to Notre Dame. Villanova had been on a win streak. Marquette has a 5-game winning streak going into tomorrow against South Florida. Jenkins' three is good. That cuts the Syracuse lead in half with 3 minutes to go.
Again, so important for Louisville when they get a good open look. Not to be afraid to take it, despite not being all that accurate thus far, 4 of 15. But as Rick Pitino said, he still wants his guys to take it as long as it's not challenged.
Devendorf from way out, off the mark. And here comes Jenkins, who just hit that three. His scoring numbers down by about 2/3 from a year ago. Jenkins broke his leg in August, though, missed 3 months. Williams for another three. And Devendorf ends up with it.
Well, I was going to say, Rick probably wants most of his guys to take it, not the 25% shooter. Actually, he probably does want T-Will to take it, but you got to recognize time and score. They had a chance to kind of get even closer, and you take a wild shot like that.
Yeah, he's already taken 6 threes, Williams has, made only 1. Roberts fouled by Palacios. Palacios hasn't scored in the game, and has just committed his second foul. 2 shots coming up for Roberts.
That's been part of the problem with Louisville. They can't get all of their guys in the game playing well at the same time. A lot of it has to do with injuries. Palacios has nagging injuries. He's just now starting to feel better. Shoulder, wrist. As you said, the last 2 games, he's been terrific, and we witnessed him scoring 21 points in 23 minutes against DePaul. He looked like the Juan Palacios everyone expected when he came to Louisville.
6 for 10 from 3 in the last 2 games, but only attempted 1 shot in the game so far. Meanwhile, Terrence Roberts has 11 points and 5 rebounds, halfway home to a 4th consecutive double-double. Devendorf with a rebound after another attempted 3. Now right on the other end, nice shot, and Syracuse's lead is up to 7.
Syracuse just executing much better than Louisville. They're getting the ball in the paint, putting a lot of pressure on the defense, and it's all about the ball movement and the precise cutting.
Sosa, nicely done.
That's New York City right there. Get up in the end, change your mind. Double pump by Edgar Sosa.
He's got 9 points now. That leads all Louisville scores. Devendorf and Roberts with 11 apiece. Roberts going to work again. And Syracuse shooting about 50% from the floor in the paint. That's not a good percentage in the lane. Sosa fouled by Watkins. That's the 10th team foul on Syracuse.
Yeah, on that last play, there was some contact with Terrence Roberts, but again, one of those kinds of guys that can put it on the floor, get around the rim. If you just stop and explode. Here's Sosa again, up in the air. He's getting good movement in attacking the gaps against this 2-3. Surprising, actually, really surprising quickness.
Second foul on Darrell Watkins. Sosa played on the Dominican Republic national team with Francisco Garcia. Palacios goes to the bench, and Sosa's classmate Earl Clark, freshman from Plainfield, New Jersey, comes into the game. Louisville has had trouble getting its freshmen to actually come to Louisville. Amir Johnson and Sebastian Telfair both went straight to the NBA. But obviously with the new rules, Clark and Sosa obviously have to come for 1 year, and who knows what the future holds for Derek Character, who's not dressed again tonight. That's a 3rd straight game. Tino told us before the game that Character has to take care of some things off the court first, and then he'll likely be back on the floor. He had a contract that he signed that he failed to live up to, and that's why he has been suspended for now.
And good for Rick. Hold true to his word. I mean, this is a young man that presents terrific potential if he just wants to play the game the way that he's being taught. And I'm not talking about just the game of basketball, but the game of life. Step up to the responsibilities.
Jerry Smith commits his first personal foul, and Josh Wright hits the first free throw. Syracuse has attempted 10 more foul shots than Louisville in the first half. The Orange 15 out of 20 now. Roberts got the rebound, but he's going to get called for the foul, his first.
Jim Boeheim, incredulous.
You know, that looks like a really nice tie Boeheim has on. I'm imagining that's not the one that Pitino bought him. The milestone tie.
No, actually, I saw it in one of the retro pictures, at least from last year. But, you know, gone are the orange shirts and the plaid jackets. Not just because of the era. I also think Jim's wife Julie dresses him very well, as does mine and yours.
Earl Clark at the foul line. We saw Bernie Fine not even wearing a tie today. I'm sure that the one that Patino gave him for his milestone game, his 1,000th game as an assistant coach.
Yeah, Bernie's the kind of knit shirt blazer kind of guy. I don't know how much use he's going to get out of that tie.
I think that's where Rick Majerus got his look. Here's Nichols for three. Demetrius Nichols with his 13th straight game in double figures, 10 points now for him. And Syracuse's lead is 6. About an 8-second difference between the game and shot clocks.
So you got to start moving in and out as well. The ball just going around the perimeter is not really forcing the defense to adjust. Got to find a way to attack the gaps or pass the ball into that sweet spot.
5 on the shot clock. Sosa has done most of the damage offensively for Louisville in the half. He's got 13 now. 7 seconds left. Wright had trouble with the ball. Clark ahead to Sosa, but he threw it away with 2.1 on the clock.
Freshman anxiety. Earl Clark knew it was coming down. Take a look right here. Just tried a little bit too hard, and hopefully Edgar Sosa, that was disappointment, and you're not screaming at your freshman buddy.
Devendorf with 1 second left. And we go to the locker room. Terrence Roberts had an excellent first half for Syracuse. So did Eric Devendorf. They combined for 22 points and 10 rebounds. And Syracuse leads Louisville by 4. And his Orange lead by 4 as we get ready to start the second half. Back with Len Elmore. I'm Dave Pasch. Syracuse leading by 4. Could have been more. They missed a lot of layups. They got some good looks on the outside, able to get some easy hoops inside, too.
Well, they certainly did. And again, to be able to free up the guys inside for Syracuse, they've been able to do it by their perimeter guys who have forced that Louisville 2-3 zone to extend, and that's created some room inside. You see the proficiency on the perimeter, and certainly in fast break situations, getting it into their big guys, and the big guys have certainly thrived. And when you look at the numbers right here,
from a front court standpoint, certainly dominant Syracuse in that first half.
Well, they certainly were. 26-12, and a lot of it has to do with the penetration, the ability of the Syracuse guards to help their guys.
Padgett with the follow off the miss by Sosa. That's 9 for Padgett. Louisville within 2. So they're going to give Sosa the basket. They're going to say that Padgett did not touch it, so Sosa has 15 in the game.
One of the other areas that Rick Pitino was concerned about, because his team doesn't shoot that well, he obviously wants them to minimize turnovers. They had 10 in the first half that led to 15 Syracuse points, so certainly that's an area where Louisville needs to improve.
Routens on the drive. And Andy Routens, son of former SU standout Leo Routens, who played for Jim Boeheim, gets his first basket of the game.
Yeah, Andy Routens not afraid to put the ball up. That time just a nice ball fake, one dribble pull up.
Syracuse leading by 4. And remember, Louisville had a chance at a layup with about 2 seconds left, but threw it away. Had a breakaway in the first half. Sosa been terrific. Maybe his best game in the Big East so far. He's got 18 points in the contest.
And again, shooting with confidence. Edgar Sosa, 38% from beyond the arc. But the ball movement's giving him a lot of open looks.
How about Routens on the other end? You said not afraid to shoot, and he does there, answering the 3 on the other end from Sosa.
No hesitation. I guess that's inheritable. Leo Routens, a terrific scorer for Syracuse. Guys tell me he didn't have any hesitation putting it up either.
Sosa trying to spin it through the left hand, got his own miss. Williams for 3. And here comes Routens again for Syracuse. Wright with a pull-up triple, too strong. Sosa's got it. Syracuse back on defense. Williams trailing, will try again. And way off. He is struggling. 1 of 8 from 3.
But I'm sure he was told if you get a good look to continue to shoot it.
And another 3-point attempt by Jenkins is no good. Louisville 5 of 21 from behind the arc. At what point, if you're Rick Pitino, do you tell your team, okay, stop shooting it from 3?
Well, it depends on who it is. Obviously, you're not going to tell Edgar Sosa to stop shooting, but in a time and score situation where critical possession, Yeah, you want the right people shooting the ball.
Foul on Brandon Jenkins is his second.
See, here early in the second half, you know, you want to build confidence for Terrence Williams. You don't know if you're going to need him or not down the stretch. In all probable and all likelihood, you will. But again, Williams has got to get a little bit close. You got to draw some iron if you're going to have the coach maintain confidence in you.
Jim Boeheim on the bench talking with Josh Wright. Boeheim, the 22nd coach ever to reach 1,000 games, the 5th active coach, and Watkins with the throwdown and the foul on Padgett, and that's 3 on Padgett.
Well, we talked about the first half. Darrell Watkins having all sorts of problems inside finishing. Not the case here. Again, it was off the penetration of Devendorf.
2 quick team fouls on Louisville, and as mentioned, 3 on Padgett. Now, Boeheim, in his 31 years as head coach at Syracuse, has seen a lot of those, from guys like Wendell Alexis to Derek Coleman and Billy Owens to the late Conrad McRae and Darrell Watkins. He's had a lot of dunkers at Syracuse. And the Syracuse foul by Terrence Roberts, his second personal.
And 1,000 looks like that.
And his first protege, Rick Pitino, on the other side. Pitino on Boeheim's first staff. He left in '78 to be the head coach at Boston University at the age of 25. And the rest, as they say, is history. Former mentor to Len Omore when he was an assistant coach with the Knicks. Nice move there by Earl Clark. Syracuse by 4 now. Clark with 6 points.
That's right. With the Knicks, Rick taught me how to full court press.
Routens and an out for 3. Pulled down by Jenkins.
And that was a sight, by the way.
You pressing?
Yes.
Clark with contact. Can't get the roll.
Get on the floor.
Yep. Roberts does, and he traveled.
Loose balls, you've got to get on the floor. You bend over, all you're going to get is a backache.
Did Pitino teach you how to shoot the pull-up 3 in transition?
No, actually. We didn't have the 3 back then.
Yeah, good point.
You take a look there. You got to get guys on the floor. Guys are bending over, getting on one knee. You got to dive if you want possession.
Padgett with a kick out to Williams on the drive. Jenkins on the other side.
Jenkins just didn't have his legs underneath. Even though that was inside out, he should be flowing into the shot. Just doesn't look like he has an elevation that he normally would.
He's 1 out of 6 from 3, and perhaps the reason that he doesn't have that elevation is because of that leg injury suffered in August that cost him 3 months. And now a personal foul called on Jenkins, his 3rd.
And you see Will Scott coming into the game first half, 2 for 2 from beyond the arc. Rick Pitino recognizes that those shots are there. He's going to substitute him for Brandon Jenkins. See if Will Scott can get the same kind of looks.
3rd team foul on Louisville. Winner of this game would go to 5-2 in the Big East and would be in the upper echelon, so to speak, at least today. But it seems like things change on a daily basis in this conference. One thing that doesn't seem to change, the 3-point shot of Eric Devendorf. He's got 3 tonight, shooting over 50% from 3 in Big East games this year. And Syracuse's lead is 7, which forces Rick Pitino to call for time. Syracuse's lead is 7. That matches the largest of the game. Devendorf, 18 points for Sosa. Devendorf has 14 in the country. Great game on ESPN2 later tonight. 9 Eastern, Michigan State and Ohio State. X Games coming up next here on ESPN.
Unmistakable ACC flavor in women's basketball. Top 3 teams from that conference.
Louisville 5 of 22 from 3-point land. The guy with the ball, Will Scott, 20, and White's the only guy to do anything from 3s, 2 out of 2. Meanwhile, Williams 1 of 8, Jenkins 1 of 6. Clark got it blocked. Here comes Syracuse again. Routens hit a 3 earlier. Crowd wanted to travel. Instead, Routens hits the nice soft jump shot. He's got 7.5.
And again, using the ball fake. He knows the defenders are closing. The ball fake gets them off their feet and then calmly sinks it. Good fundamentals.
And a 10-2 run by Syracuse, opening up its largest lead of the night at 9 points. Well, Sosa has 18 points, but the next highest score is Paget with 7. He missed there. Rebound by Clark. And finally they call a foul. Going to be the second team foul on Syracuse. Syracuse's lead is, so he's got a while to go. What do you think has been his biggest contribution thus far to the game of college basketball?
Well, I mean, beyond that resume there that is worthy of any Hall of Fame inductee. I mean, the one thing about Jim Boeheim, he's been a great ambassador to the game. I mean, you look at all the charitable endeavors that he's involved in. You look at him giving of his time and service as far as some of the coaching committees. Some of the committees we actually serve on, a couple of committees. One is the NCAA College Basketball Partnership Committee, and we serve together. You know, he just gives of his time. And that's the most important thing, I think, when you're trying to promote this game. You know, he's just been a great representative of Syracuse University as well as the game of college basketball.
And very involved with Coaches versus Cancer. Speaking of giving of his time and finances. Roberts with a high-low, and now the kick out to Watkins. Roberts with a nice save.
Again, Terrence Roberts so active right now. He's just a load for Louisville to contend with.
And then Nichols buries a 3, and Syracuse leads by 10.
Everybody getting into the act for Syracuse. We're talking about balance. Andy Roughton started off this half hot. You got offensive rebounds. You got Eric Devendorf penetrating. It's just making it very difficult for the Louisville defense.
Jim Boeheim through the years. Lions, New York native. Went to Syracuse as a walk-on.
That was not a contribution to this fashion.
Sosa for 3, can't answer. You know, you talked about balance a moment ago, Len, and that has been a signature of all of Jim Boeheim's good teams. Even the team that had Carmelo Anthony on it. They're a balanced team offensively and won the national title.
Well, what you have to do as a coach in this game of basketball, you've got to sell unselfishness. You also have to sell getting the ball to the right guy at the right time.
How about that swat by Watkins? Numbers for Syracuse. Nichols with the jam. Syracuse by 12. And Rick Pitino wants a timeout.
Biggest problem Louisville is having is that they've been limited in the paint. Darrell Watkins making his presence known, forcing Louisville to continue to look outside for offense. When they do go inside, they get disappointed. And speaking of disappointment, take a look at this block right here. Watkins, nice job with help and then recovery. And that's so important for centers to be able to step up the penetration, help out, and recover. And off missed shots, Syracuse in transition, with Devendorf being the trigger man. I mean, everything's working for Syracuse right now, and nothing is working for Louisville.
15-4 run right now by Syracuse. And Jim Boeheim is not the only Hall of Famer in this building. And coming up soon, Denny Crum, who won 662 games at Louisville, 2 national titles, will have the court here in Freedom Hall named after him. Louisville's going to be moving into a new facility soon, but Rick Pitino was really the front man behind getting Crum's name on this current floor.
Well, this indeed is the house that Denny built. All those great Louisville teams under his watch.
Sosa off the Paget screen. And then Clark is fouled by Watkins. That's 3 on Watkins. Denny Crum, as we mentioned, 2 national titles. Purvis Ellison on that 1986 team. Darrell Griffith on that 1980 championship team.
Dr. Duncanstein.
Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1994, and currently, it's interesting, he is an assistant to the president here at Louisville, and he also does a daily talk show with former Kentucky coach Joe B. Hall. An interesting listen, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. Bringing you back. You know, these basketball crazed fans here in the state of Kentucky. I'm sure they've got a little controversies now and then, get callers to call in.
Somehow I don't see Pitino and Tubby Smith working together on a call-in show in the near future. How about Devendorf? What a move.
Wait till they retire, though. But Eric Devendorf, again, we talk about his ability to penetrate. You know, that as well has created opportunities for himself and for Syracuse front line.
Will Scott hit a couple of threes in the first half. That time he hit the backboard, and then Paget with the follow.
You know, that's a page that Louisville sorely needs to take out of the Syracuse book, penetration.
And that ends a 4-minute drought without a field goal. A lot of time left in the game. Louisville down 10.
Much better job of closing on Devendorf, not giving him that lane into the paint.
Watkins lost it, but then scoops it back up. Shot clock is at 7. Watkins sees it. Watkins in the lane with 3. Roberts kept it alive. Oh, great hustle by Terrence Roberts. It will stay Syracuse basketball.
Can't say enough about how active Terrence Roberts is. Didn't give up on it, even though the shot clock buzzer sounded. The Louisville white shirts stood there thinking there was going to be a violation, but Roberts was essentially Mr. Perpetual Motion on that one.
Syracuse coming off a couple of hiccups as Nichols hit the side of the backboard. Watkins there. He's fouled and will go to the line. Syracuse gave up a big lead against Cincinnati, ended up winning it, then lost to St. John's on Sunday, but the Orange has definitely bounced back tonight.
And again, this shows you Louisville's problems. How do you take a long shot like that and in the paint? Edgar Sosa's left to battle Darrell Watkins, giving up about 10 inches.
14 fouls now on Louisville. First personal on Sosa. Louisville 5 of 24 from 3, now 5 of 25. Sosa with a brick.
See, Louisville's got to be very careful now that they don't try to get it all back, get all 12 points back in the next 2 or 3 minutes by launching threes. You know, there's still plenty of time, but it all begins for them on the defensive end, not only on the floor, but on the boards.
Devendorf. Watkins flies in there and it drops through. It is going to be basket interference. So no basket for Syracuse. Still, the Orange has a 12-point lead on Louisville. And when we come back, you'll hear from Sal Masekela. X Games 11 coming up.
Those tricks, I like that stuff.
Also today in Aspen, more heartbreak for Lindsay Jacob-Bellis. Remember, she fell at the Olympics last year and cost her the gold. After she was about to celebrate prematurely today, she fell again in the home stretch of Snowboarder X. But just fell. Wasn't celebrating prematurely, just fell. Got to feel bad for her. Sosa on the drive trying to cut this Syracuse deficit down, or Syracuse lead down to 10, but Louisville having trouble putting it in the hole. 33% from the field, 20% from 3.
Well, this is a time for Louisville to really make a concentrated effort, a concerted effort to get to the glass offensively. They're not hitting shots, but the ball is laying up on the rim. They've got to have guys in position.
Devendorf weaving into the lane, and now Routen's already with 7 in the half. Jenkins gets to the ball in the corner.
That's what it's all about, one stop at a time. You come down, you convert, time and score situation, you don't risk, you get the ball to the right guy.
Nice strip, but it will stay Louisville basketball. Now let's check in with Dave Repson for a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update.
All right, Dave, Tiger Woods looking for his 7th straight PGA Tour win. This is his first event this year. He's 2 back heading into the final round of the Buick Invitational. Rookies Andrew Buckle, Brent Snedeker tied for the lead. And college hoops, Carolina just pounded Arizona in Tucson. They win it by 28. Lute Olson had never lost a home game by more than 12 in 24 years at Arizona. Details, SportsCenter 11 Eastern News anytime.
All right, Dave, there should be some moving in the top 10, but North Carolina unlikely to be one of those teams moving after throttling Arizona. Padgett able to hit Clark with a 1 on the shot clock, but a foul on the floor prior to the shot on Terrence Roberts, and that's his 3rd. 5 now on Syracuse. And we talked about the fact that there'll be some movement in the top 10 with some of the teams at the bottom of the half losing this week. Ohio State coming up next against Michigan State over on ESPN2.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that poll right there. If you're talking about purity, I think it is Florida and Carolina right now as the best teams in the nation. Florida, in my mind, a little bit of an edge because of the experience and the experience of winning. But, boy, you look at the Tar Heels with that fast break, with that transition, with the depth.
Always on Devendorf is 3rd, 6th on Syracuse. Nobody seems to be talking about Wisconsin, though, as even though the Badgers are ranked 3rd, everybody's talking Carolina and Florida. Is that unfair, or do you think that that's just?
I think it's unfair, and I didn't mention them either, but I was talking about the 2 best teams. I don't think Wisconsin competes with either Carolina or Florida because of the lack of depth. But make no mistake, Wisconsin plays terrific defense. which I think is the foundation for a team to make a long run into March. But when you talk about the two teams I'd like to see in the finals, it would be Florida and Carolina right now because of the style, because of the size, because of the quality of play.
Wouldn't mind seeing Ohio State either when you talk about the talent, of course, young talent. We'll get to see the Buckeyes on ESPN2 next. And speaking of talent, some people think it's unlimited for Terrence Roberts, who gets a jam there. And Roberts with 3 straight double-doubles. He's 2 rebounds shy of a fourth. He's got 13 points, 8 rebounds, and Syracuse has a 14-point lead. Louisville down to just 1 timeout remaining. Now, we mentioned that Ohio State is coming up next over on ESPN2. Buckeyes hosting Michigan State. Coverage beginning with College Game Day, driven by State Farm. In fact, that's already on the air. Tip-off scheduled for 9 Eastern in Columbus. Greg Oden, 15 points, 10 rebounds per game. Been terrific as a freshman line.
Well, he certainly has. And again, the added dimension for Ohio State is that right there, the shot block and the ability to change shots, and also to be that option when all else fails, throw it above the rim. And you know, you take a look at his impact on the game right now. And when you say that, you know, you'd like to see maybe Ohio State play, I think another month. See, I still think that that young team still needs some growth. They need to develop a leader, particularly in the backcourt. You know, I don't know if Lewis, the senior, is that leader, or Conley, the freshman, can be that leader. But that's pretty much all they're lacking, particularly in times when they need to maintain poise. I mean, that happened at Wisconsin.
Interesting, too, hearing Greg Oden's comments on ESPN. Now, it's very early in his first campaign as Padgett scores, but he leads you to believe, based on Oden's comments today, that right now he's content in college.
And you know what? I'm not surprised. I mean, he is an intelligent young man. He sees a much bigger picture.
A missed jam by Roberts, but a Louisville foul. That's going to be 4 on David Padgett. That's really the one guy Louisville can't lose, because the Cardinals just do not have a lot of size off the bench.
And I'll finish the Oden remark in a moment, but the other thing they can't lose from Padgett is the ability to work against that zone. He's the guy that comes up beneath the free throw line, catches, turns, and reads, and finds open people. He's the most adept out of all of the front line players for Louisville to be able to do that. But going back to Greg Oden real quick, he's perceptive enough, and I've said it a long time. You know, you can go to the NBA and you may not reach your potential. Here in college is where you're going to get better and better. And I don't care if anybody says, if it's not money as an issue, it's going to come down to improvement. And Greg Oden can realize his unlimited potential right here and enter the league playing at the top of his game. I just think that it's a no-brainer in my mind, but obviously with so many guys leaving, it has been something of a controversy. That's why I love that 19-year-old rule. Wish it could have been 20.
Darrell Watkins commits his 4th personal foul. Padgett misses the front end of the 1-and-1 as Louisville's in the bonus. 17 fouls on Syracuse. So Padgett and Watkins both stay on the floor with 4 fouls. Devendorf slicing through the lane. Palacios got a piece of it. Scott on the baseline. Here's Palacios, who still has not scored in the game. Padgett misses the jam. And then Syracuse had trouble, had 3 orange shirts around the ball, and a jump ball is called. It's going to go to Syracuse on the alternate possession.
Well, we've seen a number of missed dunks on both ends. You know, remember the old, the roller derby? They better call off the jams right here. Again, point blank. Padgett goes hard. You got to admire him going hard, but you got to make those.
Juan Palacios has not had a good game for Louisville. Our Star Watch update. Nothing for Palacios. 15 for Nichols, and Palacios 37 points in his last 2 games, and Louisville won both those games.
Yeah, Syracuse doing a nice job, and Palacios is on the perimeter extending the zone to cover, and he's not getting anything inside.
Nichols can't get it to drop. Palacios gets to the loose ball. Louisville's really struggling shooting the ball in the second half. Normally an excellent shooting team after intermission, around 50%. Palacios finally on the board, and maybe that'll be a spark for Louisville as the Cardinals are within 11. And Jim Boeheim, perhaps sensing that, calls timeout. So 30-second timeout called by Syracuse, and Juan Palacios, a key for Louisville, Len, down the stretch if the Cardinals are to return to the NCAA tournament after missing last year and had to settle for an NIT Final Four after an NCAA Final Four 2 years ago.
Well, we were talking about how he just seems to have shaken some of the dings and dents that he's had early in his shoulder and his wrist. Last 2 games he's been terrific. But again, Syracuse with their zone, it's really taken him out. As he goes, so go the Cardinals pretty much.
We talked about those last 2 games. 37 points. He missed a game on the 10th of January against South Florida. Most of the next game against Providence. Injuries you documented earlier, neck, shoulder, and wrist. But he's finally, if not at 100%, about as close as he's going to be for the year. And Rick Pitino said that's a big key to why Louisville's playing better. But right now the Cardinals down 11. Still a lot of time left, though. 8 minutes to go. And Syracuse blew a large lead against Cincinnati a week and a half ago. Ended up winning that game by 1. Here's Paul Harris, another freshman. Talking about Greg Oden. Some thought Harris, if that NBA rule wasn't in place, would have gone straight to the pros. He struggled for Syracuse since they've gotten into Big East play offensively and misses that one there. Now Palacios. Out to Williams. Off the dribble. Williams really struggled. 2 of 10 for the field. Palacios is there, though, with a follow.
And you see that's the strength and the value of Juan Palacios. He can take you outside, he can go inside, he'll battle on the boards. And he's the barometer. You want to know how Louisville's doing? Watch Juan Palacios. He's starting to rise, and so are the Cardinals.
And so are the fans here inside Freedom Hall. 7 minutes remaining. Syracuse's lead down the 9. Shot clock inside of 15. Rollins tried to hit Roberts, turned it over. Numbers for Louisville, but Harris gets back on defense. Palacios spotting up. Jerry Smith got it to fall. And another timeout by Syracuse as the Cardinals have pulled within 7 at home. Well, that one basket by Palacios was the spark. Boeheim tried to snuff it out by calling time, but that has not stopped the Cardinals, who are on an 8-1 run.
Again, off the turnover. Here's the push, and Palacios kind of short-armed that one, but Smith never gave up his position on the weak side glass, and I say it over and over again. If you're playing against a 2-3 zone or any zone and you recognize your teammate's going to shoot the ball, get to the open spot, usually on the weak side, although that one was on the strong side, and hold your ground. You're going to get more touches than not.
Good job by the freshman Smith, who had been starting but did not score against Connecticut in 12 minutes. And that last basket is first of the game tonight.
It's important for Syracuse right now to be very cognizant of this possession, to get a good shot up. Instead of rushing, instead of taking gambles and turning the ball over, got to really slow down the momentum here by scoring.
Harris able to break the pressure with Nichols.
And there's the patience right there. Nichols had a 2-on-1 break. He decided to pull it out.
Good move by the senior. Now Dievendorf driving to the hole. Blocking foul is the call. 16th foul on Louisville, 2nd on Farley. We've got a game. 6:32 to go. A lot of time on the clock. Syracuse's lead, which was 14, is now 7. Olivia. Inside Freedom Hall. Louisville trying to get its 3rd straight win. Both these teams have won 4 of their last 5 games. Eric Dievendorf, the leading scorer in the game for Syracuse, with 16 points. He also has 7 rebounds, has now missed 2 free throws, and that's rare for him, an 80% free throw shooter. Juan Palacios has got Louisville back in the game. 4 points in the last 90 seconds after not scoring the first 32 minutes of the game.
Boy, what a turn of events here. You think you got a lock on 2 points. 80% free throw shooter misses them both. So it does nothing to dull the momentum for Louisville.
After the timeout called by Syracuse. 2 timeouts remaining for the Cuse, 1 for Louisville. A lot of time left. 6 minutes plus. Will Scott had 2 threes in the first half. Unable to hit there. Jerry Smith, nice feed to Palacios. And he can't score underneath. Paul Harris lost it on the baseline.
Well, the breaks are going Louisville's way. No question about it. The question is whether they can capitalize.
Harris will go to the bench. Darrell Watkins with 4 fouls comes back into the game. David Padgett is on the floor for Louisville with 4 fouls.
Better get it out.
Williams did to Palacios and a foul on Watkins. That's the 18th foul, so a 1-and-1 coming up for Palacios, who's not a great free throw shooter, 65%. 1,000th game for Jim Boeheim tonight on the sideline. Inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. 31st year as head coach at Syracuse, reaching another milestone as Palacios hits the front end of the 1-and-1.
And if they blow this lead, this game will feel like all 1,000 rolled into one.
Yeah, that look you saw earlier that you said was at least the 1,000th time we've seen that. And maybe a permanent look. Louisville back within 5. 10-1 run by Louisville. Watkins in the lane. Can't get the roll. Palacios can't save it. It will stay Syracuse ball. Pagic asking the official for a little bit of grace while he reties his shoe.
Well, when you're making a run against the other team, the opponent who's getting run against, you can call all the timeouts you want. You got to score to stop the momentum.
And then Devendorf throws it away. Top team in the Big East, at least today, is Pittsburgh. At 7-1 in conference play. Marquette, Georgetown right behind. The winner of this game will join Marquette and Georgetown in second place in the conference.
Remember, the top 4 teams get a bye in the Big East tournament. Last year, Syracuse made history by being the first team to win the championship, playing 4 consecutive nights. But I tell you what, I wouldn't want to take my chances doing it. That's why it's so important to stay in the hunt.
And both teams looking for quality wins to help their NCAA tournament resumes. Louisville did not make it last year, and had Syracuse not made that run and won the Big East tournament, chances are they would have been left out as well. They do not have a field goal in their last 4:15. Louisville had a drought of about 4 minutes without a field goal earlier in the half, and another Devendorf turnover.
And that was excellent defense by Terrence Williams. We talked about Eric Devendorf, and what he has done for most of this game was penetrate and create for himself and others. But look at Williams right there. Gets a little arm out there, but just enough to force Devendorf to think better of trying to go all the way and forces the travel.
Yeah, good defense by Williams, who's not gotten it done offensively. Only 5 points on 2 of 10 from the field. Jerry Smith an open 3, and Louisville's within 2.
As I said, you can call all the timeouts you want if you're Syracuse, but it doesn't matter if you don't score.
A 13-1 Louisville run. Syracuse has turned it over 3 times in its last 4 possessions. Roberts, nobody picked him up. Smith will get called for the fouls. He tried to slap it away from Roberts.
Again, you talk about Paget against that zone. Right there around the high post. He turns, surveys, and finds the open man. That's his value. He also has the offensive rebound, but when he can calmly read that zone and read the open guys, it just makes it so much easier on Louisville's offense.
5 points for Smith, all in the second half. And hitting the front end of the 1-and-1 is Terrence Roberts. That's 17 fouls now in Louisville, 3 on Jerry Smith. Roberts only a 46% free throw shooter. Now 6 of 8, though, 75% tonight.
Well, those points were huge for Syracuse, obviously in the course of the game, but just to be able to kind of slow that momentum a little bit.
Palacios from the free throw line. Palacios has been the one to lead this march back, and then what was Syracuse thinking there?
Well, that's the key, Dave. He wasn't thinking. Devendorf trying to do more than he necessarily had to with that ball. There was no real pressure. He just wasn't paying attention.
A chance to tie or take the lead. Palacios hit his first basket of the game, and that started this Louisville run. He's got 8 points during this span, and Louisville's within a deuce.
Nice look.
Paget underneath. And a foul on Roberts. That's 4 on him, 4 on Watkins, and Paget, who has 4 himself, will go to the foul line. Paget with a chance to tie the game at 68 with under 4 to go in Freedom Hall. A 15-3 Louisville run.
Well, we talked about Eric Devendorf, 16 points, 4 assists, but his biggest problem has been the turnovers. Over the last 5 games, he's averaged 4 turnovers, and Louisville obviously capitalizing on it. And it's Juan Palacios who's been the spark that started the fire.
4 turnovers for Devendorf tonight, and Palacios, after going scoreless in the first 32 minutes, has 8 points since. Devendorf with 16 points, 7 rebounds, and those 4 turnovers.
And remember, I told you, Eric Devendorf has more looks than he does tacks, really. And you can look on his face and tell you how the game is going with Syracuse. But he's a gritty player, and he finds a way to get it done. And if you're a Syracuse fan, you hope that he starts to value the ball a little bit more.
You wonder if Padgett's legs are tired. He, as you mentioned, had surgery on both knees, and he's struggling to the free throw line 1 out of 4.
Well, that's possible, and he dives on the floor. He plays with reckless abandon.
And there were a lot of people thought he'd never even be close to 100% this year. 1 out of 2 that trip. Josh Wright back into the game to handle the ball. Syracuse had a 14-point lead about 5 minutes ago. It's down to 1.
Look how extended the Louisville defense is. A lot of room for gaps.
Wright with a brick. Nice job by Watkins, though, to poke it out.
A lot of room to drive the gaps if necessary. That's where Devendorf has really created problems for Louisville throughout this game.
6 minutes and 15 seconds since Syracuse last had a field goal. Shot clock at 17. And Jim Boeheim calls a timeout. That will leave both teams with 1. Syracuse leading Louisville by 1. Let's go back to the studio and Dave Rebson.
That is defending gold medalist Shaun White, and I am at the top of the super pipe for what
we out by Jim Boeheim, recognizing how important this possession is. And with 16 seconds left, the ball is almost at half court. He wanted to have a better understanding of what they were trying to do.
Shot clock at 6. Devendorf with 4 on the timer. Nice pass. Watkins is blocked, but a foul call. Watkins and Palacios both hit the deck. Both guys are okay.
Well, again, Devendorf with a bit of penetration on the jump stop. Pinpoint pass. Shot clock running down. You couldn't get a better shot than that. And actually a good foul. I mean, it was an attempt to block the shot, but a good foul because Watkins, 68% free throw shooter. And I wasn't trying to jinx him.
Well, Syracuse has been a very good free throw shooting team this year. 4th in the Big East at 71%, but only 62% in the game, and 3 for their last 9.
But that's right. In the last 5 minutes, it's been documented, they've shot 80%. 4 players shoot over 80%. Watkins wasn't one of them.
1 out of 2, and a 2-point game. Terrence Williams only 5 points, bringing it up the floor for Louisville.
And look at the tightness of this zone. Almost 3 guys out front. Make it a 3-2 instead of a 2-3.
Will Scott can't hit the 3. Padgett has to be careful with 4 fouls. Great save, Palacios. Now Williams for 3, and Louisville leads.
And we've been critical of T. Will all night because of the shots. That's why you keep shooting.
First lead since the 9:25 mark of the first half. The lead lasted only 14 seconds. How long will this lead last? Louisville ball after the miss by Nichols. 2 minutes remaining.
Not a bad shot by Syracuse, just didn't fall. But again, Terrence Williams having difficulty. He missed some threes by a foot.
We mentioned Syracuse blew a 19-point first half lead against Cincinnati 2 games ago. 14-point lead in this game. Back-to-back threes by Terrence Williams.
And that's why Rick Pitino tells his guys to keep shooting, because ultimately he believes they'll get the feeling, doesn't want to destroy confidence. And Williams has got it going now.
Nichols, who's been quiet, got it stripped. It will stay Syracuse ball.
Again, we've talked about Terrence Williams. We've seen some shots online. As I said, they're almost a foot off today. But he's on the money 2 times in a row. And it's so contagious, man. You get the feeling, it feels right coming off your hand. And replicated.
A 20-3 run by Louisville, and Padgett knocks it out of bounds. Watkins will come back into the game. Will Jim Boeheim's 1,000th game as head coach end up in defeat here in Louisville? Or will his team come back like it has so many times in many of those 741 wins that he's got? Tied for 14th all-time with John Chaney. Shot clock at 6. Nichols for 3. Not there. Palacios with a rebound.
And where is Terrence Roberts? The guy has been so active for Syracuse.
Jerry Smith, too strong, and rebound, Diebendorf. Syracuse without a field goal in the last 8.5 minutes. And then the Orange turn it over.
So you cannot make that play. Try to get your man on a runner. You've lost the lead. You're down 4. You got possession. You got to bring it down, and you got to get set. Possession so valuable, and Syracuse just gave that one away.
17 turnovers now by Syracuse, 11 by Louisville, and many of those came in the first half. Louisville ball, each team with a timeout remaining, both teams in the bonus. Right with the strip. Sosa with a great job on his knees, and then a jump ball is called, and it will stay Louisville basketball.
Oh, that's a tremendous recovery by Edgar Sosa. Take a look right here, not really aware of Wright coming, and he goes down, and watch the recovery right here. Just pulls it in. And he doesn't try to call a timeout, which leads me to believe he knew that if he was tied up, the possession hour would still go in his team's way. So he didn't lose the last timeout.
Yeah, that would have been their final one. About a 20-second difference between the game and shot clocks. Williams only a 55% free throw shooter. Roberts is not going to foul him. And now you got to let him shoot it for Syracuse. The timer's at 10. That makes no sense. I have no idea why you would do that. Why would you waste all that time and then foul with 5 in the shot clock? You got a 55% free throw shooter with the ball standing in midcourt. You let him go, and then Watkins fouls out.
You trying to get an answer from me? Because I'm with you, man. I do not know why that occurred.
Winter X Games 11 coming up next here on ESPN. Look forward to the Flying Tomato, Olympic gold medalist Shaun White. At age 20, one of the new superstars in sports. He's coming up next, but 25 seconds remaining in this game.
Well, when you're down, it's a 2-possession ball game, and there's only enough time for 2 possessions, and your opponent already has the ball, you've got to be able to foul. You take a look here. Syracuse got 10 team fouls, so the Cardinals in the double bonus. Denny Crum saying, I've seen this before.
Yeah, his teams back in the 80s when they were winning national titles were making runs like this. It's a 4-point lead. Sosa having a great night overall and at the line. 6 of 6 now. Louisville in the double bonus as Watkins fouled out. 10th team foul on Syracuse. Sosa missed the second one. Rebound by Roberts. Syracuse has to hurry, but they don't need a 3. Right to Diebendorf for 3. Won't go. Rebound Palacios, and a foul on Roberts.
But you're exactly right. They didn't need a 3. If you drive in a situation like that for a 2, the likelihood is Louisville is not going to foul you. They might contest it, but if you go hard, you're going to get a quick 2, and then you come back out, look for a steal, you foul, you play that way. Instead, Syracuse opted for the 3, and they weren't hitting anything, so.
Jim Boeheim's coached 1,000 games, and he has not seen a lot of games like this where a team goes without a made shot for almost 10 minutes.
And again, the point that I asked before, the guy most active on this team, getting a lot done, particularly in the paint, Terrence Roberts, and he was nowhere to be found in the last several possessions.
Palacios hits the second one. 24-4 Louisville run. It was a 14-point Syracuse lead at one point. Diebendorf gets it to drop. 4-point game with 6.4 left, and Boeheim will call Syracuse's final timeout. So Louisville leading by 4 over Syracuse, and if the Cardinals hang on to win this game, they'll improve to 5-2 in league play. And they will be tied for second with Marquette and Georgetown. Len, you talked about the significance of being in the top 4 that you get a bye in the Big East tournament.
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned the fact that building a resume is what both of these teams need. Not many big wins of note, hardly any for either one of these teams. And the bottom line is that here in conference play, anything can happen. What Louisville has done defensively is something to marvel. And unfortunately, on the Syracuse side, their inability to get the ball to guys who are able to make shots. And as I said, Terrence Roberts, a guy that off penetration has really provided a problem for Louisville, didn't even really touch the ball during this Louisville run.
Who's playing the best of anybody in the Big East right now? Is it Pittsburgh, or would you say Marquette? They've won 5 in a row.
Well, I would say both of those teams, obviously. In Pittsburgh, you can't argue with the success that they've had. They've been so consistent throughout this season. You know, they're obviously the team to beat. And another team that's on the rise is Georgetown. It looked as though early in the season they had some early season losses, non-conference, some losses that you wouldn't have expected, but they seem to have righted the ship right now.
Georgetown has won 4 straight games. Louisville, if it hangs on, will win 3 in a row. 1 timeout remaining for the Cardinals, 0 for Syracuse. And a deep ball to Jerry Smith. And Nichols gets to it with 3.6 on the clock. Don't forget, Winter X 11 is coming up next here on ESPN. You'll get a look at Shaun White and much more coming up. Winter X Games 11 coming up on ESPN. Over on ESPN2, college basketball, Ohio State and Michigan State showdown in the Big Ten. A chance to watch perhaps the best freshman in the country in Greg Oden, although Kevin Durant has something to say about that down in Austin.
I tell you, if you base it solely on performance, Kevin Durant has been spectacular. And Greg Oden has been certainly steady as he continues to rise. I don't think Greg Oden has really scratched the surface. Neither has Durant.
Syracuse gives up a 25-6 run to Louisville to close out the game. And Rick Pitino's Cardinals win their 3rd straight game as Jim Boeheim coaches his 1,000th game. 76-71 the final. Winter X Games 11 coming up. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Len Elmore and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Dave Pasch saying so long.